Welcome, my name is Kochanny with Vectronic, and this is another one of our series of how-to videos. Today we're going to work on how to attach an external drop-off to one of our collars. In this case it happens to be a survey collar. So we'll work through the process of the different types of tools that you need and how to attach the external drop-off. First off, we have the external drop-off, which is this unit here. It comes with a magnet on it. By removing the magnet, it starts to activate the either countdown timer or the calendar date by which you've programmed the drop-off to release. This little wire here is used for communicating for reprogramming, and it's also the antenna for remote communication through Iridium if we want to use the radio-controlled drop-off option. So we're going to take the collar itself, we're going to position the drop-off on the collar as to where we want it. In this case, we're going to use one of the fasteners to hold that in place. So we're going to use the bottom set of holes here, attach our drop-off, and then we're going to mark it as the position on the collar, and we're going to use this little white nylon as a marking place, as an anchor. So we're going to mark it there. We're going to remove that, finish our mark here, and then we're going to make a horizontal cut across the belting material. So in our case here, we're going to use this little machine here. You can also use a very sharp utility knife to make a clean horizontal cut. But before that, we want to make sure we use the correct side. There's an antenna that runs in between the belting material on one side of the collar versus the other side, and you can actually feel that. You can feel that ridge, and maybe you can see it in the video here. It's this marker here that runs between the belt layers. So we want to place the external drop-off on the side that does not have the belt or the antenna on it. So we're going to position that in our machine, get a nice clean cut. Or you don't want to lose this part because we're going to use that for later. Okay, now that we've got the belt cut and size for the drop-off, we no longer need our cutting device, so we're going to move that out of the way. Put that over here. And dependent upon your collar and the width and the size, your customer service person will provide you with a template for your holes in order to mark where the drop-off goes. So we'll just lay our template against the side that we're going to attach it to. We'll just secure that temporarily with some painter's tape, something like that. And then we're going to take a marker that can be seen on the black, and we're just going to mark our holes as to where they're at. And then we're going to remove the template from our belting material, which should now have our pre-marked holes in them. And those are the holes that we're going to go ahead and punch in the remainder of the belt to attach the drop-off to. Okay, now that you've used your template to mark your holes, you're going to go ahead and punch the holes in the belting material. There's 3 holes that need to be punched completely through, and then there's 1 hole that only needs to be punched through the first layer. You can use a hand punch like this, or you can use kind of a hammer and a punch set like this, and in order to punch those holes through those materials. Again, it's very important that one of the holes that's going to house the antenna from the drop-off in between the belt layers only goes through that first belt material. So in this example, you can see that we've got our attachment holes, which are the 3 holes here, and then the hole that's going to allow the antenna to go in between the belt layers is only punched right there, and we're going to make a pocket. So you might want to use a large blunt tool like a screwdriver to separate those tube materials, and you're going to feed that down and make a pocket. You're going to be not too aggressive so that you don't tear the stitching that holds both layers together, but you're going to make a pocket, and then again that area for the antenna, we're going to make another pocket to make sure that goes all the way through, so it looks something like that. And then we're going to go ahead and use a large kind of bore needle like this, and we're going to go ahead and stick that down through there so that it allows our antenna to be easily fed down through the pocket. Just like that. And again, it's important to remember that when we made our mark, that the bracket that's going to hold our accessory piece or the other attachment part of the collar is going to be on the upward side of the collar. So we're going to go ahead and remove that. Before you do that, you want to make sure that the antenna from the drop-off is not covered over one of our attachment holes, so that when you go ahead and use the rivets, you're not going to damage that antenna. So now that we have those in place, we're going to take the rivets that were supplied with the drop-off. You can use a handheld rivet gun like this, or you can use a pneumatic tool. And you're going to make sure that your holes are lined up properly. Make sure my antenna is securely down there. So we're going to make sure that the holes are lined up. And then you're going to go ahead and make sure it's held nice and tight, and you're going to go ahead and set that. And it might take a couple times to do that. So you get a nice clean edge like that. And you're going to do that for the other two holes here and there. So again, we're going to go ahead and set our rivet inside of our rivet gun. Line our holes up. So again, trying to show you the best way to do this. So it's all the way through to the drop-off itself. And then go ahead and set the rivet gun. So you have that set, and then one more time for the third. And there you go. So now that we've got the actual drop-off attached to our collar, it should look something like that. And then taking that piece that we previously cut off, we're going to set that in there, take our fastener, go through the back side, through the end of the drop-off, and then we're going to attach with our locking nuts. These are locking nuts, so they don't need to be over tight. If you over tighten them, you can snap the post, but you should just be hand tight. So you should get a nice lined up between the two belt materials, but as in this case you can see it's a little bit long. So what you can do is then take the auxiliary piece off, cut a little bit of 2 millimeters off of that edge, which looks like about there. Once we do that, we put our fastener back on. You can now see that we have a nice clean transition between the belt and the auxiliary piece. And then we use our nut driver to secure those down. So just so that they're hand tight and snug. And then we put it back together And that's how you would attach the external drop-off to, in this case, a survey collar. If you need help or any support, feel free to email us at wildlife@vectronic-aerospace.com. Thank you for tuning in and have a great day.